Hello, everyone. I am here to preview the Green Bay and Minnesota game coming up on Sunday. And offensively, Green Bay is 8th in total offense at 398.8 yards a game, 7th in passing yards at 290, tied for 24th in sacks allowed at 32, tied for 17th in rushing yards at 108.8, and 2nd in yards per carry at 5.1, 19th in third down percentage at 38%, 13th in points per game at 24.7. Defensively, 12th in total defense at 349.1 yards a game, 5th in passing yards allowed at 223 allowed a game, and they are 3rd in sacks with 34. 26 in rushing yards allowed at 126.1, and they're tied for 20th in yards per carry allowed at 4.6. 10th in third down percentage at 37%, and 16th in points per game allowed at 24.3. And their injury report, it's hefty, to say the least. Mike Daniels, defensive lineman, very good, out with a foot. Nick Perry, linebacker, he's out with a knee. He's mostly a pass rusher. And Raven Green, safety, has an ankle. He's doubtful. Rashad Breeland, he's a corner. He wasn't there last time we played, but he's actually pretty good. But he had to sign mid-season because in the offseason he had this weird foot surgery deal that prevented him from passing a physical. But he's normally a pretty good nickel corner from what I remember of him in Washington. And he's questionable with a groin, but he didn't practice this week, so he might be closer to doubtful than questionable. And Kentrell Bryce, safety, questionable with an ankle. Trey Carson, questionable with a rib. He's a running back, and the main two I usually would worry about is probably Jones and Williams, though. Randall Cobb, questionable with a hamstring. Kevin King, questionable with a hamstring. Lucas Patrick, questionable with a concussion. And Jimmy Graham is questionable with a knee and a thumb injury, but he is kind of expected to play in this game, which means don't let him go up the sideline for like 30 yards this time. Now, Minnesota. In offensive rankings, they are 14th in total offense at 363.7 yards a game, 8th in passing yards at 279 a game, and 15th in sacks allowed at 26. They are only 31st in rushing yards at 84.7 and tied for 24th in yards per carry at 4.0. And last week didn't help, where they only got like 22 yards. So they're 17th in third down percentage at 39% and 15th in points per game at 24.1. Defensively, 5th in total defense this year at 320.8 yards a game allowed. 6th in passing yards allowed at 226, tied 5th in sacks with 32, 4th in rushing yards allowed at 94.8, and 2nd in yards per carry allowed at 3.6. They're 1st in third down defensive percentage, however, at 28%, and 11th in points per game at 22.9 a game. Injury report, it's on the surface, it looks smaller than Green Bay's, but it's kind of an illusion. But what I mean by that is something that you'll see later. Chad Beebe, he's out with a hamstring. David Morgan, one of the better blocking tight ends in the league, he's still out with a knee. Ben Gideon out with a concussion, and Andrew Sendejo still out with a groin. And what I meant by it's kind of an illusion, they have 8 players that are on the injury report, just not 8 other players that are on it, just no injury designation. And those 8 would be Anthony Barr, Tom Compton, Everson Griffin, Danny Isidora, Mike Remmers, Xavier Rhodes, Adam Thielen, and Stephen Weatherly. So that should be interesting to see if there's any kind of setbacks there. And as for my thoughts on this game, offensively, Minnesota, they need to be able to expose the run game in this game. They're already kind of susceptible there before, and now you're taking away Mike Daniels and Nick Perry. That's 2 of their front 7, 2 of possibly, well, one of them's definitely like their best guy. And then the other one, kind of inconsistent up and down. He has good days, he has bad days with Nick Perry. And even though he's mostly a pass rusher, having him not there helps a lot still in this whole run game aspect. So hopefully DiFilippo doesn't give up on the run game if it kind of has 2 or 3 bad runs in a row, because he has a tendency to do that. And like I said before, they just need to take advantage of all these injuries that they have, and mainly Daniels, Perry, Green, and Brashad Breeland, because even if Brashad Breeland goes, he hasn't practiced all week. He's certainly not at 100% health. So you can kind of go after him a little bit more than what you would be able to in weeks prior. But I wouldn't expect them to be able to throw all over the Packers, just because they do have Jair Alexander, who over the year has progressed quite nicely. And we've seen him, I don't know if you guys have been watching them at all, but we have seen him make plays against, teams like the Saints and the Rams, and, they're pretty good offensively, I would think. So don't be surprised if he makes a play or two in this game. He's a very good player. And for the most part, I would say stay away from him. And just go to whichever receiver they don't put him on, whether that's Diggs or Thielen, and get some Rudolph involved in there, get some Dalvin Cook involved in the passing game. Things of that nature. Just kind of avoid him, and you're kind of good, especially without HaHa Clinton Dix there anymore. You kind of have other people to maybe get the ball out to target, and yeah. But for the most part, if we do protect Cousins, I believe we should be able to throw the ball on this team, especially if you're saying they had 3 or 4, just guys in the secondary who were on this injury report who are questionable, at least. So you should be able to throw against them for the most part if you protect Kirk Cousins. And that's a pretty big if there, just because we've seen how this line works. Usually doesn't work. But you gotta hope. Gotta hope with that. And sometimes they have good days on the pass protection front. Sometimes they have bad days. Last week was certainly not a good day by any stretch or means. And just remember to keep balance. It doesn't have to be 50-50. I just need there to be some threat of running the ball so they can't just drop 8 and pin their ears back. That would be a problem. It's been proven that you can do that to this team late in the game when it's just always in a passing situation. You can do that to this team, and bad things will happen for this team. So you need to keep a balance throughout the game, and DiFilippo needs to kind of keep this running game in check. He doesn't... 2-yard runs are okay sometimes. You are not going to get 5 to 10 yards every run. And sometimes it kind of feels like if he doesn't get that, he's not going to run again for the whole quarter. So it's kind of a problem with that. And defensively, this sounds odd saying, but shut down Aaron Jones, make the other Aaron try to beat you. And that's mostly just because he is less mobile this year with the knee injury and all. If you keep him inside the pocket and take away the run game, you actually have a better chance of beating Green Bay this year than you would have other years trying to go in with that. Other years you would almost give them the run just because of the threat of Aaron Rodgers. And this year it's kind of in reverse, how you normally play it this way. So it's kind of interesting to see this whole shift. But kind of make him beat you, because once he gets outside the pocket, he still will make those throws. Don't get me wrong. He will still have those throws where it's there's Aaron. But they happen much less this year, and we've kind of seen him mess up some more routine plays this year, more than usual. And that might be a natural regression due to age or the injury or whatever it is. We've seen not always the Aaron Rodgers that we know. And you need to kind of play to that. And try to take away Devontae Adams, because if you can take away Devontae Adams, I kind of like our chances across the board overall. And that would probably involve the Xavier Rhodes on Devontae Adams, which I imagine they were planning to do anyway. But just make a different target beat you, whether it's Randall Cobb or Geronimo Allison or Aaron Jones out of the backfield. Just try to make it someone else that's not Devontae Adams. And I would like to get to the point where Hunter and Griffin can kind of just pin their ears back and go, because once again, that's something where I feel like you can kind of hit them this year, because Rodgers is not as mobile, so it's harder to move the launch point. It's harder for him to move around, and if you can keep him in the pocket, and benefits of Sheldon Richardson, we haven't had him before, and Tom Johnson coming off the bench in those long third down situations, we actually have pass rushers up the middle, and that's going to be nice to have in this game. So just shut down the running game, and everything else should kind of follow as long as we cover well in the back end. And I do think coverage is kind of hit or miss this year for the most part, although I think it's been better lately. And even though Dejo is technically the starting safety, I think it helps not to have him in there, just because he's not the best pure cover safety kind of guy. And Anthony Harris has been playing extremely well in his absence. Another, just a little interesting tidbit that I'll be watching. I don't know about you guys, but Eric Wilson will see extended time again because of Ben Gideon, and Anthony Barr is coming back this week, and we might see a Barr-Wilson kind of rotation, just because it's Barr's first game back since the Jet game, and it'll be interesting how that plays out, whether or not they'll do that, or if they do, how often they're doing that. So, and keep in mind, Eric Wilson has also been playing pretty well in Anthony Barr's absence, and he's the better true off-the-ball linebacker. Well, he's the more natural one than Anthony Barr. Anthony Barr he's pretty good at stopping the run, not so much in pass coverage, and I would like to see him more as a pass rusher, but they kind of don't use him as a pass rusher, ever. And just as a little note, special teams, don't screw anything up. We don't need any blocked punts or fumbled kicks or punt returns, no muffed kicks, no muffed anything, none of that. Dan Bailey, make your kicks. Just make sure everything is okay there, because you are playing Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers, if given opportunities, will kind of screw you over. And whether he's at full health or not, it's still Aaron Rodgers, and you need to account for that. But yeah, my overall prediction is I do have Minnesota winning the game, 27-24. I do think this will be close. It's two teams desperately trying to keep playoff hopes alive. Because, if Minnesota wins, Green Bay drops to, 3-6-1. Pretty much playoff hopes are kind of dashed at that point, and you wonder what the reason would be. Well, potentially the reason of playing Aaron Rodgers the full year if he does have this knee injury. If you have 6 losses already, and you kind of get into that point of, is it like one more loss away from not playing him, or what is it? And, with Minnesota, we were expected to be Super Bowl contenders. I think we have proven to not be that right now, at least until further notice. Whether or not they turn around and just run the table, that would be, maybe it's a conversation again, but as of right now, it's not even a conversation. So, and dropping down to 500 wouldn't be a good look. So these are two very desperate teams trying to keep their playoff hopes alive, and this could easily be the game that defines how Kirk Cousins, at least his first year in Minnesota, is perceived, because this is a team that has a very banged up defense right now that he should be able to light up when given the opportunities, and he must do that in order to keep this going. I mean, this game is in prime time. It's Sunday night. Everyone will be watching it, and he kind of needs to take seize of those opportunities when he has the chance, because if he can't do it against a defense that could be without maybe not most, but a pass rusher, their best defensive player, they traded away their best safety, and they only have one corner really in the back end that's healthy, that's good, then if you can't do it against them, it's hard to do it against many other people, especially when you're at home and in a dome. You question a lot of things if you can't do it this week. And I do think for the most part he'll get it done. I think we'll see pretty much standard Kirk Cousins things. He might throw 2 to 3 touchdowns. He might have a pick or two. And just kind of those, he's a perfectly running machine for most of the game, and then every once in a while he'll just shut down for a little bit. And we'll probably see that again, and wouldn't shock me, but I do think overall Green Bay just has too many injuries to overcome in this game, which is why I'm taking Minnesota 27-24. And let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Until next time, I bid y'all adieu.